Hey, listeners, ready to transform your sleep? Cozy Earth is all about lasting luxury and comfort. Their bamboo sheets have been called the world's softest sheets, cooling, moisture wicking, and unbelievably soft. And I can tell you they get better with every wash. And they have a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty.
But it doesn't stop there. They have bath, sleepwear, loungewears, and even skincare. Free shipping on orders of $50 or more.
Make sure you go to cozyearth.com, use our code INFOGO at checkout to save 21% off. You can find all of this in the show notes. Welcome to the podcast. I'm William.
And I'm Kat.
And we are both feeling better today.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe I can put some sound effects in here and make fireworks going off in the background. What do you think?
I would love that.
Okay. 250 years of the United States, right? It's a nation not introduced as a place. It was, however, introduced as an experiment that, well, refuses to ever finish. In the mid 1700s, 13 colonies, well, they were on the edge of a vast empire, the British Empire, because it was global, organized, confident. But power flows downward from crown to colony, law to subject.
And then a fracture begins to form.
Not a fracture. You mean like the little squirrel at the beginning of the Pixar movies that's trying to catch the acorn?
The Ice Age movies, yeah. Oh,
I saw the fracture and you said fracture, and it popped into mind that, you had a little squirrel chasing the acorn, and well, kind of feels like that, right?
Yes.
All right.
It was not a sudden rebellion, but a slow shift in thinking. The idea that legitimacy might not come from kings at all, but from the people being governed. And that idea changes everything.
Because there is no proven model for what would come next. No large scale democracy to copy. No guarantee that 13 separate colonies can agree on anything long enough to survive as a nation. What they are attempting is closer to an experiment than a country. Experiments, they can fail.
Failure here would not be minor either. It would mean war, fragmentation, or disappearance back into an empire. Oof. Then widen the perspective. The land is not empty or new. It already is home to complex societies with long histories, political systems, and trade networks. Layered over that are European empires competing for territory and influence, and an Atlantic system already moving people, goods, and forced labor across oceans.
So, independence is not happening in a blank space. It's happening inside a fully active world system. So let's jump forward 2.5 centuries later. The same experiment will still exist. It has expanded, industrialized, gone to war, become a superpower, and built global systems that move information in seconds. And yet, one thing has never settled.
It still argues about what it is: freedom, power, identity, belonging, purpose. The same questions keep resurfacing in new forms. The core idea here is this is not the story of a finished nation. It's the story of a nation still deciding what finished even means. Then the sound shifts. The present begins to dissolve, and the story moves backward into the layers that exist long before the name United States ever did.
So, let's go before the name United States, right? It's a continent before it becomes a country. Before there's a flag, a constitution, or even shared identity, there's a land that already contains history of that's full of volume, not waiting to be discovered, not empty, not silent, but it's already inhabited by civilizations that have been building, trading, negotiating, and adapting for, well, centuries.
Across what will later be called North America, there are diverse indigenous nations with complex systems of governance, diplomacy, and law. Some organized through councils and consensus, others through centralized leadership, many through structures that do not map neatly into European political categories. Cities exist. Agriculture sustains large populations. Trade routes stretch across vast distances, carrying goods, ideas, and alliances.
This is not a fragmented wilderness. It is a network of societies, each with its own logic, stability, and memory. Then, well, the Europeans, they arrive and they start to reshape the equation. At first, it's not one unified presence, but competing empires layered on top of each other. Spanish expeditions pushed through the south and west. French influence spread through river systems and trade alliances. Dutch and British settlements established footholds along the eastern coast. Each arrives with different goals. All operate under the same broad assumption. Land is something to be claimed, organized, and converted into, well, power.
What follows is not immediate replacement, but collision. Systems overlap, trade becomes entangled with conflict, alliances form and fracture. New settlements expand outward while existing societies adapt, resist, or are displaced. And the continent becomes a place where multiple worldviews are forced to exist in proximity, often without agreement on what land, ownership, or sovereignty even mean. But at the same time, another system begins to take shape across the Atlantic.
Europe, Africa, and the Americas become connected through a growing ocean network of commerce, migration, and forced labor. Goods, crops, people, and violence move along the same routes, binding continents into, well, a single economic structure. What develops is not just colonization in one direction, but an interconnected Atlantic world system that reshapes all sides of the ocean.
By the time English colonies begin to solidify in North America, they're already entering a landscape shaped by centuries of interaction, displacement, adaptation, and exchange.
And nothing about this is neutral. Nothing about it is starting fresh. So when the idea of independence eventually forms, it does not emerge from a blank page. It emerges from a fully written, already active world system where multiple histories, well, they're still unfolding at once. So the United States does not begin as a blank slate. It begins as a contested space where multiple worlds are colliding at once. I can agree with that statement more than anything else.
Uh,
Because, I mean, Europeans didn't arrive here. There were people already here.
right,
And then you
right.
have the French, the Dutch, the Spaniards, the British, indigenous
Germans.
people. Like
Yeah.
everybody's just like, wait a minute. We're all coming together here. Not
Yeah. And
not to
and not all
mention
those views always meshed cohesively
and,
at
and
all.
and we really didn't include the enslaved people that came here either. So yeah,
Yeah. I would think that like the later seasons of Outlander kind of grasp this a little bit. They definitely touch on it a little bit. What was another show? Oh, Hell on Wheels kind of touched on it a little bit too, as far as being out west and
Outlander. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Outlander's pretty good. It's more of it's like a, Diana Gabaldon, which is the author, it really does good work as far as history writing goes. But
Hell
there
on
there
Wheels.
is
Is that where all the men leave and the women take over the community?
mm, no, it follows. It's more that one's more of like railroad in the West,
Okay.
but still the same. You had different views. You had people of color. You had the Asian culture come in with opium, and indigenous peoples with issues. But in my opinion, the Wild West, almost a lot of those stories would capture kind of how unhinged America did start out to be.
Hmm. Not as unhinged as Europe during the Middle Ages.
Mm,
That is the most unhinged time of all.
yes, yes, I would have to agree with that still. because that oof. Let's tackle when the idea was written down. The moment of independence does not begin with a country. It begins with a statement, which was the Declaration of Independence, which is not a functioning system. It's a philosophical break. It asserts that rights are not granted by rulers, but inherent to human beings. At the time, the idea is radical, unstable, and not yet fully realized in practice. Now, what follows is not immediate nationhood, but a struggle to make the idea real.
So the Revolutionary War is fought through improvisation. Resources are uneven, coordination is fragile, and unity is consistently, well, it's negotiated rather than guaranteed. The colonies are not yet a nation so much as a coalition under pressure. It's held together or shaped by the opponent more than it's shaped by identity. So when victory does arrive, it does not resolve the central problem. It kind of exposes it.
The Constitution becomes an attempt to stabilize what is not yet fully formed. It is not a perfect blueprint, but a compromise structure built to manage competing fears, like tyranny versus chaos, federal authority versus state autonomy, inclusion versus exclusion.
So it's designed less to end disagreement than to contain it. And even at the moment of creation, the core the core contradiction, well, it's already present. The promise of liberty exists alongside systems of exclusion and slavery. The definition of we the people is powerful, but it's still incomplete and unevenly applied from the very beginning. So the system is not built on resolution, it's built on balance that holds tension without fully removing it. So the nation is not built on resolution, it's built on managed contradiction, I guess is the best way to say that, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, and you have to think all the royals that were sending people over here didn't actually come over here to experience what was going on at the time.
No, taxation without representation. You know, we should do a
Indeed.
whole thing about that somewhere.
Yes. It's like managing a household from afar.
Yeah,
And
I would agree with
and
that.
and I just don't see that working out too well at all.
It's
But
a
in,
long distance relationship.
yeah, some people can manage that. Some people are okay with that, but not entire groups of people
All
are
right. Here's
okay
the
with
thing.
that.
British is like, hey, yo, I'm gonna hit you back tomorrow. And the United States is like, yo, bro, tomorrow never came.
Right. Right.
Anyway, no, maybe not. Maybe the United States is like, hit me back tomorrow. And the British is like, I don't know. Should I hit you back tomorrow or maybe next week? Should I just ghost you? Like I'm trying to put this in perspective. And the
Right.
United States is like, hey, wait a minute. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We're invested now. So sorry. Yo, I'm gonna have to let you go.
Right.
And British is like, no, you can't let me go. So they come over and they're like knocking on the door, and the United States is like looking through the peephole going, we see you.
Right. But we're not letting you in.
Anyway, that is
So,
a long way around, right?
yeah, it
Maybe
is.
we edit that out.
I don't know, but I thought it was funny. So, after independence, the United States does not stabilize, it just simply expands. It just expands its instability. In any case, territorial growth pushes the nation westward, reshaping the map faster than its institutions can fully adapt. Land is acquired, settled, negotiated, and often taken, stretching the idea of the country across the entire continent. So, with expansion does come ideology. Manifest destiny is not just a belief in growth, but a justification system for it. It frames movement as inevitability and inevitability as righteousness.
And Kat and I are going to do a full episode on manifest destiny. Just we're not going to dive into it here. So, at the same time, the economy begins to transform beneath the surface. Industrialization takes root, changing how labor, goods, and cities are organized. The country starts to shift from agrarian rhythms to mechanical ones, from localized production to interconnected systems of scale. But expansion does not resolve the nation's central tensions. Well, it just intensifies them.
Slavery does not fade away during this period. It expands with with the geography, embedding itself deeper into the economic structure of new territories. So instead of narrowing differences between regions, growth widens them. The North and South begin to develop not just different economies, but different interpretations of the country itself. Political compromise becomes the primary tool for holding the system together. Agreements are not made because contradictions are resolved, but because they are postponed. Each compromise stabilizes the present while pushing pressure into the future. It's a future us problem, right?
Yeah, it's a future us problem.
So, the result is a nation moving forward geographically while becoming increasingly divided internally. Expansion does not simplify the nation, it multiplies its internal contradictions probably tenfold.
I don't know. Here's the thing. I think as a nation, we can unite when we need to, and we divide when we have nothing to unite over. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I can agree with that to a certain extent. I think it's almost purposely still divided.
Um, I don't know. Coke.
Pepsi.
I guess we'll be right back. So now that we're back, when contradictions
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I came across Big Fork Brands recently, and it's become one of those finds you actually want to tell people about, and you don't find that often. Okay. They're doing bacon sausage, plus these really solid pork jerky snacks and Chicago style sauces. Basically, upgrade anything you throw them on burgers, hot dogs, fries, throw it on there. It works.
but I bet it's packed full of junk.
Actually, it's made with clean ingredients and real care. That's small batch with no shortcuts, and people are obsessed with the flavor. You can go over to bigforkbrands.com, use our code INFOGO at checkout, and get 20% off anything on the site.
You can find the link and our code in the show notes. The Civil War is not simply another conflict in the nation's timeline. It is the moment when accumulated tension stops being, well, containable within existing political structures. What begins as competing regional systems, economic differences, and unresolved constitutional ambiguity becomes an open question of whether a single nation can continue to exist under a shared governance. Unity itself, well, it's no longer assumed, it's contested.
Now, the country fractures into two governments, two military systems, and two visions of legitimacy. The conflict is not only political, but existential. It forces a direct confrontation with contradictions that had been merged for decades but never resolved.
As the war unfolds, it becomes something new in scale and intensity. Industrial capacity, rail networks, mass production, and total mobilization turn into, well, a conflict that is no longer limited to traditional battlefields. Entire societies are recognized around the war, you know, so the line between civilian life and military, well, they start to blur. And when all this conflict ends, the outcome is not a simple restoration of order.
Reconstruction attempts to rebuild the nation not just physically but conceptually. It tries to redefine citizenship, redraw the boundaries of rights, and reassert a unified political framework over a fractured reality.
But this process is incomplete and uneven. The question of what equality means in practice remains unsettled. The legal structure changes faster than social reality can adapt, and the tension between the two, well, they persist. The war resolves succession. but it does not resolve the underlying structure that made secession possible at a breaking point. So the Civil War does not end a chapter. It reveals the structure itself, well, was unstable from the very beginning.
Indeed.
Agreed, 100%.
So, after the Civil War, the United States does not pause, it just accelerates. The dividing force is no longer territory alone, but infrastructure. Railroads stitch the continent together, factories concentrate production into dense urban centers, and communication systems begin to compress distance and time. The country starts to behave less like a collection of regions and more like a connected machine.
Industrial growth is rapid and uneven. Wealth, well, it concentrates as corporations expand in scale and influence, shaping markets, cities, and labor conditions. The logic of production, well, it becomes central to national life, recognizing how people live and work.
At the same time, large scale immigration transforms the population. Waves of newcomers arrive from different parts of the world, beginning bringing languages, cultures, and skills that reshape the social fabric. Cities swell, diversify, and strain under the speed of expansion.
This transformation, well, it produces friction. As industrial powers grow, so does resistance to it. Labor movements emerge in response to long hours, unsafe conditions, and unequal distribution of wealth. Strikes, organizing efforts, and political pressure become part of the national landscape, reflecting a growing struggle over who controls the terms of modern life.
By the early 20th century, the United States is no longer only focused inward. It is increasingly entangled in global systems of power. Participation in World War I marks a shift toward international engagement on a new scale. World War II accelerates this role, and by its end, the United States emerges with unmatched industrial capacity and military reach. So, what began as a territorial republic has become something larger and more complex, a central actor in a global production, logistics, and influence. The nation shifts from a territorial republic to a global system of production and influence.
So the United States becomes a superpower. After World War II, well, the United States does not simply return to normal life. It enters a new condition entirely. The Cold War, it defines the global landscape as a ideological competition between systems. And the United States, it positions itself as a central force in the structure, shaping alliances, economies, and political strategies across continents. Power is no longer measured only in territory or industry, but in but it's measured in influence over a global direction itself.
So, beneath this framework sits a constant invisible pressure nuclear deterrence. For the first time in history, military strategy operates under the knowledge that full scale conflict between major powers could result in total destruction. This reshapes politics, diplomacy, and even culture with a permanent sense of escalation held in check. Inside the country, another transformation unfolds.
The civil rights movement forces a fundamental redefinition of citizenship. Legal structures are challenged, rewritten, and enforced in ways that expand formal equality. The meaning of inclusion becomes a central national question, not as an abstract ideal, but a concrete legal and social struggle. At the same time, the nation's cultural reach expands globally. Film, music, television, they're all emerging technologies. They carry American influence far beyond its borders. Identity becomes something, well, that's exported as much as it is internally debated.
But this period is not defined by cohesion alone. It's also defined by fracture. The Vietnam War intensifies public disagreement over foreign policy and national purpose. Watergate further damages trust in political institutions, revealing vulnerabilities at the highest levels of government. Together, these moments deepen a growing skepticism about authority and transparency.
And the result is a dual reality. The United States is at its peak of global influence, while simultaneously experiencing rising internal doubt about its systems and leadership. So global dominance and internal skepticism, well, they kind of rise up together.
Now, the end of the Cold War begins with a sense of clarity. One major ideological rival has collapsed, and for a brief moment, the United States stands at the center of a seemingly stable global order. Now, there's optimism that the system has reached a kind of endpoint where large scale geopolitical conflict may give way to integration, trade, and technological progress. But that sense of stability quickly shifts as a new force expands from the margins into the center of daily life.
The internet, because it transforms communication itself. Information moves instantly across distance, collapsing barriers that really once separated regions, institutions, and individuals. Identity begins to form not only through geography or community, but through digital spaces. Economies adapt to new patterns of speed, access, and scale. What emerges? Well, it's a system that is more connected than anything that came before it, but also less centralized, more diffuse, and harder to interpret as a single narrative. Then the trajectory changes again.
The September 11th attacks mark a turning point in national security and foreign policy. The United States enters a new era defined by counterterrorism, surveillance, and prolonged military engagement abroad. The sense of vulnerability shapes how security and risk are understood at both institutional and cultural levels. As these changes unfold, another process intensifies internally.
Political and cultural polarization, well, it grows in parallel with technology change. Algorithm driven media environments, well, they reshape how information is selected, amplified, and consumed. And this really helps shape narratives that become harder to maintain as different groups experience increasingly different versions of reality through fragmented information ecosystems. And that result is a nation that is more connected than ever in terms of infrastructure, communication, but yet it's more divided in terms of interpretation, trust, and shared understanding. So the nation becomes more connected while becoming more divided. I would agree with that because on both ends of this, you have misinformation, too much information, and BS information.
Indeed. And not only that, we never really fixed the
Underlying problem from
yeah,
Reconstruction.
yeah.
I would
I
agree with that
mean,
100%. Yeah, I think if you took all the misinformation out, I mean, we did a whole episode on misinformation through the internet because everything on the internet is not true.
right.
Factoid. Sorry, I stole your little thing. Maybe you should do it. Everything on the internet is not true.
Factoid.
There you go.
And
And a lot of people think it is.
well, yeah. I mean, there's that. I think
What did we say? Verify, 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 verify.
right. There are reputable sources on the internet. That is not what we are saying.
Yes, yeah. No, we're saying if you're on Facebook and you see something, it's
Mm.
probably sensationalized media. Verify.
Yes, go get the facts straight. Don't just say, "Oh, I saw this Facebook post and
Or
roll with it." Okay,
TikTok or whatever other social
social
media
media.
platform you're on.
Right.
Verify.
Please.
Yeah.
I'm I'm always tempted just to buy encyclopedias and fill my house up with those. But in any case,
Encyclopedia Britannica.
yeah, maybe.
Do you really remember those?
I do. They actually have that online too, but I wouldn't use that as a cited source in a research paper.
I wouldn't use Wikipedia either because
No.
people can they go in and they add stuff. I mean, I use it from time to time, but I also go in and verify whenever, I'm doing the writing, I'll go in and verify from other sources or other websites.
Right.
Um, anyway,
Well, Now, the United States is not framed as completed or unresolved, but as ongoing. It has never reached a final version of itself, and now each generation inherits both its systems and its contradictions. If
So
I
the
could
unit,
bold that in language, I would.
yeah. Yeah, because every generation creates its own version of the United States.
And the only thing we can hope for is making the next generation better than the one before it.
What is my saying? Excellence, because we don't strive for perfection, because perfection means we make absolutely no mistakes. Where excellence is, we can make mistakes, but we don't make the same mistakes. We learn from those mistakes and grow for the next day.
Right,
So, excellence is being better tomorrow than we were today.
right.
Anyway, so the United States is not defined by a conclusion, but by continuation. It's the movie that never ends, like Back to the Future or Rocky.
Right. Now, 250 years later, the United States is still doing what it did at the beginning, building itself while arguing about what it is building.
Strike the Back to the Future thing. I think Rocky, because there was what, like 60 Rockies.
They're alive.
Yeah. So the United States is, but hopefully we're getting better with every sequel, unlike Rocky.
Right.
I am so sorry. I butchered that. Maybe we just put fireworks over me talking. What do you think?
I think either or would be fine.
Somebody is out there screaming at their smartphone, car radio, wherever they're listening to this podcast, going, William, shut up. Rocky
And
was good movie.
maybe the first one. I don't know.
John Wick. They got
Yeah.
better.
John Wick was good. I didn't haven't seen any of the sequels for that. It reminds me of The Punisher,
Mm,
but I can't say the sequels for that were good either.
no. John Wick was actually pretty good. All three. There was three,
Oh.
right?
I think so. But I like Keanu Reeves, so there's that.
So do I. And Keanu Reeves is a class act from way back.
He does a good job no matter what he does.
Yeah. And he still rubs the subway. But he plays the same character in every movie except for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. He didn't like go stab people with a pencil.
Right. Or dodge bullets in the Matrix.
The Matrix. Oh, wow. I forgot about that one. The last one of that one was not too good. I didn't like the ending.
I don't think I saw the second one.
Yeah. Anyway, if you would like to support this podcast, tell a friend and help get the word out.
If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at Patreon or take advantage of our sponsors. Those links are in the show notes.
Kat and I want to say thank you for listening.
Whether you've been with us from day one or just tuned in, thank you.
But you know what? You can join us on Facebook at Info on the Go.
And over there, you can get to know us.
Or you can just simply ask us a question and we'll probably answer it, honestly.
Yeah. We are still small enough. We do see every comment and
We
email.
we really do.
So send us some fan mail using the link in the show notes or leave a review.
Hey, if you do leave us that review, it does help others find us. You can email Kat or myself directly at
infoonthegopodcast@gmail.com.
and all of this is in the show notes. Till next time.
Stay curious.
Every morning starts with a choice. Don't settle for just coffee. Rise up with strong coffee. Meet the world's strongest cup of joe. Strong isn't just a drink, it's a movement. And strong stands for striving to reach our natural greatness.
Born from one simple need to be better. They rebuilt coffee from the ground up, infusing organic coffee with collagen, protein, nootropics, and functional ingredients that fuel your body and sharpen your mind. There's no crash, no compromises, just clean energy, focus, and flavor that fires you up.
Whether you're chasing kids, chasing goals, or chasing greatness, don't just wake up, rise up. Strong coffee, the world's strongest cup of joe, for a world ready to be better.
Use code INFOGO at checkout to save 15%.